Check the 40 show. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party.
We are back. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy 40 podcast, previewing Week 11 of the NFL. Playoffs are right around the corner. With my co-host, Mr. Matt Walker, I am John Dabari. Walker, ready for the playoffs?
Unlike my Eagles, yes, I am ready for the playoffs, and exactly what you wanted is happening, John. The race to the bottom for the NFC least. But at least your team lost as well. So we're both dealing with disappointing losses because your Seahawks laid an absolute egg. Russell Wilson is turning into a turnover machine, and that offense is falling apart right in front of our very eyes. So, yeah, we're both wallow together. But, yeah, Week 11. And why not get started off with a bang, John? Because we just talked about those Seattle Seahawks. Look at that professional transition. And you can't tell me that this isn't the Thursday night football game of the year. Sure to not disappoint. Arizona Cardinals head to CenturyLink Field to face off against your Seattle Seahawks.
Yes, sir. On paper, should be the highest scoring game of the week. Total is 57.5, some places as high as 58.5, with Seattle at home a 3-point favorite. So basically a wash at home. Implied team totals with one of the highest scoring games here. Seattle, number 2 on the board at 30.5, and the Cardinals 27. You kind of mentioned it a minute ago. Seattle's just kind of backtracking, and Arizona's kind of hot. So gun to my head, if I had to pick, give me Arizona getting the points, but not much to go over here. You're going to fire up everybody. This has got fantasy goodness all over. As much as I like to fade these Thursday night games, this is not happening this week.
Yeah, but listen, hot does not describe what DeAndre Hopkins did to those Buffalo Bills in absolutely ripping their hearts out. Did you see his post-game interview? He referred to himself as I. And he's a tremendous human being. Go find it. He said that he dunked on him. He gave him the old tap on the head. He goes, in basketball, that's what you call getting dunked on. And he said, but then there was 3 of them. So I don't know what you call that I dunked on. And then I forget how he summed it up, but he referred to himself as I, like he's just that fucking special. And it was amazing. I won a fantasy week on that throw, on that touchdown with Kyler and Russ.
For you,
long a week. I was so happy. But let's talk about this game. A mere 4 weeks ago, in week 4, we saw a 34-37 overtime loss by those same Seattle Seahawks to Arizona in Arizona. So since then, the Seahawks are 1-3. Not what you want to be doing. They absolutely must win this game. There's no two ways around it. They're at home. Was it protect the nest or whatever shit they got going on up there? 12th man with no one in the stadium kind of situation. But this is a must-win for Seattle. So let's just run down. This is the perfect game for us to do the would you rather. So on Thursday Night Football, Kyler or Russ?
Can I tear my heart out? First thing we're doing here, Kyler. Who's been better lately? It's Kyler. Not even close.
That's the correct answer, sir. Kyler Murray is surging to the top of Dynasty quarterback rankings. I think he's QB2 on the year. It might be QB1 in my heart. So
I think he's QB1.
Yeah, probably after that last showing, sure. And he did nothing in the first half of that game. It's just amazing how quick that dude can stack points. DeAndre Hopkins or DK Metcalf?
Hopkins.
DK is going to get Patrick Peterson again, isn't he? He largely
blow past him the first time too. I don't think it matters.
No, I don't think he did. I think he got relegated. He had 2 for 23 in that game. He caught a touchdown late in the game that got called back by penalty, but he got erased in that game. That's the game where your boy Lockett had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Well, and Lockett's banged up. This could be a huge David Moore game.
It really could, because I think they're going to keep Peterson on DK, even though Peterson was the one in coverage against Stephon Diggs on that touchdown. Lastly, Chris Carson, who I believe is slated to return for this game. I think they were holding him out because of the short week. Or Kenyon Drake returns to crush all Chase Edmonds fantasy hopefuls.
Yeah, Chris Carson. You know, as much not that he's disrespected, but with him being out, you see how important he actually is for this offense. I know we've talked about it before. If he's not getting involved in the pass game, he doesn't help a ton for fantasy. But with him being out, I mean, they've really struggled. So I think him coming back is really going to help them.
How much did I not like DJ Dallas to bring Alex Collins in off the street and give him all the carries last week? I mean, that's just like, we'd rather have this rookie because he's dirt cheap, but when push comes to shove, we'd much rather have the veteran that's been on the street for a year and a half taking 90% of the rushing downs.
Yeah, and I thought Dallas, he has had some shortcomings, but he was more than sufficient, at least from a fantasy point of view. I mean, he got in the end zone, 3 times, I think, over 2 games, so that always helps for fantasy, but fantasy-wise, he seemed fine to me.
Yeah, I mean, 29 carries for 88 yards. That's not what Pete Carroll wants to see in his running backs. DJ Dallas is a better pass catcher probably, but I think that ship has sailed because he's already been paced by Alex Collins, and now Chris Carson's going to come back. So hopefully you want a week or 2 on DJ Dallas because we may never hear from him again. What happens with late round running backs. All right. Who wins the game, John? Then we move on.
Yeah, right in the hot hand. Who's hot, who's cold? It's going to be the Cardinals, unfortunately.
I am going with the Seattle Seahawks. Straight up. Back against the wall. Grit game. But it's going to be fun. And I'll tell you, Thursday night are the games I watch the most, ironically enough, because it just works with my schedule. Come the weekend, I barely watch any football on Sunday live. I record everything and watch it like crack of dawn when I get up. I'm doing shit with my family all weekend, so I don't barely watch live football. And Monday night, those games have sucked as much as Sunday night have lately, so I haven't really earmarked most time. These are games I watch. I'm watching this whole game on Thursday night. It's going to be awesome. And I have a lot at stake because I have Kyler Murray and DK Metcalf far too many places. So let's get this week kicked off with a bang. But getting off of that game and getting into the 1 o'clock, so we're going to do the same thing we did last week. We're going to do early slate, late slate. So let's rip through some of these, trying to keep the content clean. The New England just somehow beat the Baltimore Raven Patriots in a absolute mind fuck. Head to Houston, NRG Stadium to face off against Romeo Crennel and the Houston Texans.
Boring. Total of 48.5, which is higher than I would have thought. New England's a 2-point favorite, so we're looking at New England with a total. Houston's at 22. New England is 25. I see a letdown for New England here. They haven't been good all year. They're not going to start being good. They probably got all geared up to face Baltimore. So now they're in a spot where they're going to be in a letdown. So I think I like Houston to win a real low-scoring game here, but this game's disgusting.
It is. The Houston Texans have managed 2 wins this season. They have both been against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And one of those was a mere 2 weeks ago where they edged out a 2-point win against Jake Luton. Their offense isn't clicking. Their defense stinks. They just lost a terrible game to the Cleveland Browns, 10-7, setting the NFL back years and setting Nick Chubb owners back a wee bit as well when he runs out at the 1-yard line. But smarter football play than fantasy. But I'm with you. I say that the New England Patriots are going to stack wins here, and it's going to become via the rush. Houston run defense is allowing 167 yards per game, highest in the NFL this season. And Cam Newton, although his rushing average is low, he's still getting those rushing touchdowns. And Damian Harris are literally going to run all over them. Fire them up, must starts. You can honestly still start Jacoby Myers because he had a tough matchup against the Ravens. He caught the ball. He threw the ball. He's obviously being integrated into this offense. And their wide receiver 1, N'Keal Harry, can't even get a target, barely stay on the field. His shine is off entirely. So New England, a lot rosier outlook after that Ravens win. On the Houston side, I mean, hopefully Watson can get his shit together and put together a good game because he laid an absolute egg against the Cleveland Browns, even though win was an issue, but he should have done better against that suspect Browns secondary. So on the Houston side, I think it's Watson, and probably you're going to roll out our boy Christ, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Will Fuller. Maybe you drop down to a Brandon Cooks revenge game if you see fit. But, yeah, not a lot to be had here. We're going to start the Sunday off with a crap fest in hot Houston, humid Houston, whatever you want to call it. Houston sucks. So we'll move on. And now we are going to jump to a game featuring two of the bottom 6 run defenses in the NFL. So you know what's coming here, and it's the Detroit Lions at the Bank of America Stadium to face off against what sounds like P.J. Walker, and I don't even know the running back behind Mike Davis. I think it's Rod Smith, if I'm not mistaken, and the Carolina Panthers.
I did not know that at running back. I didn't know that was happening. The line is off because Stafford got banged up. It sounds like he's going to play, but Bridgewater got hurt. The early line was 49 with Carolina, a 2-point home favorite. So close to 50 points, close game, so expecting it to go back and forth. Yeah, with the injuries, question marks at, quarterback for each team, Detroit, Stafford, I think, is set to play, but it was a thumb injury on his throwing hand. No Kenny Galladay. This has got shittiest game of the weekend written all over it. I mean, we could get some points here, but it's going to come from guys you don't want to start in your fantasy lineup. So this is kind of a fade across the board if you can. I don't know what P.J. Walker did when he played the last time. I don't know how involved Moore looked good last week, but, backup quarterbacks, good shrug. He probably has a favorite guy that we don't even know exists on the team that's going to come from the 4th string and pop for this week and help nobody. So this is a fade for me across the board.
Yeah, Mike Davis left the game with a thumb injury, ended up coming back, but I think he dislocated it or did whatever. That doesn't sound good for a running back, but he did return to the game. But Rodney Smith is the backup who saw 9 snaps while he was out. I don't even know if that's the real Rod Smith. I did not watch his game, but we'll figure it out. P.J. Walker is not good for this offense. I mean, he's a mobile enough quarterback, but he is not an NFL quarterback. So who knows? They'll probably dumb down the game plan for him and just use a lot of trickery. We could see another big Curtis Samuel game.
Yeah.
They need to scheme their way into a win. But so long as Matt Stafford comes back, even without Galladay, he finds a way to stack up yards. And I'm not terrified of his Panthers defense. So you might want to go to the well with him. You can obviously trust Marvin Jones while your boy Kenny Galladay is out because he's just stringing together good games.
Yeah.
10 targets, 8 for 96 and a touchdown. But we're burying the lead. DeAndre fucking Swift. Finally named him the starter going into week 10. Took you long enough. What are you, just super veteran deference to Adrian Peterson? You just have to keep Kerryon Johnson happy? What's the reason, Matt Patricia, for not naming your best player the starter before the back half of the season? Well, 16 for 81 rushing. Good start. 5 for 68 and 1 receiving. Yeah. Take my pants off, please. That is the type of love I want. And he could do that every single week. And Matt Stafford throws to the running backs. He did it with 3-0 Riddick in the past. He targets the running back. Let Swift, just let him free. That dude could be the RB1 for the rest of this season.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
He could be. PPR could be. You're talking about Drew Brees might miss a few weeks. Jameis Winston isn't keeping that Kamara train on the same track. I know he targeted him when he came in, but shit's a-changing for Mr. Alvin Kamara. McCaffrey's back out. I mean, Zeke is falling off a fucking bridge. This isn't really a bridge too far. If he gets these 20 to 20 whatever, 20 plus touches a week, and you tell me 4 or 5 of them are catches, whew, sky's the limit. I'm super excited for Swift in this game because Carolina still stinks first round. Like I said, both of these teams are bottom 6 defenses. So you want the running backs in these games. And they have combined to allow 30 rushing TDs on the year, these two teams. There is points to be had via these backfields. I think DeAndre Swift could be the RB1 this week. And I do believe Curtis Samuel is going to have a decent game in this one.
I hate Curtis Samuel, but I like the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need to talk about DJ Moore finally getting a touchdown because I sat him in one of my leagues. That's what you have to do sometimes to get these players' attention. Bobby Anderson, you're going to start him at this point in time. But without Teddy Bridgewater, consider me terrified of everything in Carolina. I also believe there is a 49% chance that Christian McCaffrey doesn't take another snap this year in the NFL. How do you feel? They're going to lose this game, Matthew Stafford or not. Okay?
They already come out and like immediately say, no, we're going to get him back before the end of the year. So
because
they
have to say it.
It's not like people aren't showing up to the fucking game. People aren't there anyway. So
listen, they're robots, John. They don't care when the people are in the seats or not. They just know how to lie to people on reports and during interviews. That's what they do.
I think we see him again. I don't think his injuries. I think he comes back next week is my guess.
Well, listen.
So they can fuck him up even worse and lose him for all of next year.
I'm going to change your mind right here. Okay, they already ruled him out for week 11. They play at the Vikings in week 12. Then they have a bye in week 13. Does he play week 12?
No,
absolutely not. So the rest of the regular season, he's done for the fantasy regular season. Like I said, 49% chance he doesn't play another snap this year. He's too valuable. He hurt himself the first game back. Just call it. Teddy Bridgewater's hurt now. Like Matt Rule, you proved the point. You got to 3-7, but you are still one of the worst teams in the NFL. Like I said at the beginning of this year, you're going to end up going 4-12 when it's all said and done. I don't know where you get that fourth win from, but spare Christian McCaffrey the bloodbath it's going to be playing with PJ Walker under center. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about it. Team I absolutely fucking hate right now. All right, my Philadelphia Eagles head to First Energy Stadium to face off.
I know where you're going. I like it.
Cleveland Browns, and that's all I have to say about Cleveland. They are the most boring NFL franchise in the entire universe right now. They want to win games 10-7. That's what they shoot for. They got guys running out of bounds at the 1 yard line because they're smarter football players than they are fantasy football players, John. Nick Chubb swung the balance of power probably in a ton of leagues with that intelligent play. Luckily, none of mine because I still won the leagues I had him in. But give me the skinny on this.
Yeah, me too. Total 46.5, 45.5 most places, though. Cleveland is a 3-point home favorite. So you're looking at an implied total of 24.5 for the Browns and your Eagles 1. Cleveland is still trash against opposing tight ends. I love Goddard this week in this one. Other than that, Philly scares the shit out of me. I'd like to see a little more out of Miles Sanders. He just got unlucky last week. I know he got the bulk of the work, and then Boston Scott got in the end zone, and so did some other fucking bum that doesn't matter. Yes, I think I'm yeah, just Miles Sanders got unlucky. The little bit I saw of that game, he looked to be healthy, so he should be back. I think the touchdowns will fall his way this week, so I like him. I like Goddard. Cleveland, I don't know what to do here. Chubb's back, which is good news for me in several spots, so that makes me happy personally. Professionally, as far as fantasy football goes, or for real football, I don't know what you can expect. But obviously, if you have Chubb after seeing what we saw last week, you're going to play him. His passing game is just a fucking
moving on. No. You start no one whatsoever. You barely were guaranteed a good stat line from Odell before he got hurt. You start nothing in his passing game. They do not want to throw the ball. Chubb looked okay until that last run, and then he looked shot out of a cannon. I'm like, okay, he's good. Then he's 5. He turned that quarter and just exploded. But you see Chubb back better for Hunt. Hunt is not the alpha ball carrier. Every one of his good games this year has been when Chubb is there. He just plays better as this complement back where he still got the same carries. Both had 90 carries, still had over 100 yards rushing. He did better in receiving game, got 3 for 28. You can start both of these guys because the Eagles are starting to crumble in their run defense. They're now 24th most, they're 24th worst as far as rushing yards allowed, and have allowed 14 rushing TDs on the season. So they're not as stout as they had been early in the season up front. Their linebackers are abysmal, and Cleveland is going to be able to run all over them at home. You mentioned Dallas Goedert. Ertz just got activated from the IR. They haven't decided whether he's going to play this week or not, but that could screw everything up because last week Goddard got banged up and missed a good chunk of the game, and Richard Rodgers was actually the leading pass catcher for my Eagles. So
all that.
Yeah, there's some things to be had. And, Miles Sanders got unlucky. 1 5-yard touchdown by Clement when he came in after Miles Sanders walked him all the way down the field. Another trick play by Boston Scott scores on a 56-yard touchdown. Miles Sanders could have easily had a 150-yard 2-touchdown day. I mean, just really unlucky to not be in on 2 specific plays that worked. He was creating yards for himself the entire game. There was guys in this backfield all day long. It's an absolute clusterfuck in Philly. Peterson's getting skewered for his play calling. Carson Wentz is now playing conservative, so now he doesn't take any risks because everyone was talking about he was too risky. Well, when that happens, our offense doesn't move because our offense is stagnant, so he has to be the risky guy to move the offense. There's like a balance of power that is being like worked right now in Philadelphia, and who knows what's going to come of it. I don't know that the Eagles win another football game this year the way that they're playing. They've lost their way. And while they're starting to get talent back, talking about Ertz coming back, Jalen Reagor's finally healthy. Alshon Jeffrey got on the field. Miles Sanders is back. They have skilled position players on offense. It hurt Travis Fulgham, who turned 5 targets into a 1 8-yard catch on the game. So interested to see what they're able to pull off because you can throw in the Cleveland Browns. I just don't know. 1, the Eagles can throw on anyone right now. And 2, the last couple games in Cleveland have been extremely weather affected. So keep an eye out. The only guys I feel comfortable starting in this game are the running backs. So let's get out of there. I think we're running a little slow here. We still have 4 games left, so we are going to rip through these. Let's be more efficient. We are talking about Pittsburgh Steelers heading to TIAA Bank Field to face off against the Jacksonville James Robinsons. What do you got?
One of the surprising lines to me, total's only 47.5. Pittsburgh's only a 10.5 point favorite, which means you got Jacksonville lowest on the board, 18.75 projected total. Pittsburgh 29. I don't know. A couple weeks ago, who were we talking about? We thought would be 21. How the fuck is this not 2 touchdowns easy, if not 17? So I love Pittsburgh to go down there and beat the dog shit out of Jacksonville. I like all 3. Last week, we finally saw all 3 receivers get heavy volume. It's kind of been a wide receiver by committee thing, something I was actually writing. I'd done the research. But, yeah, last week was the first week that Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and Juju all got double-digit targets, and all 3 scored more than 20 fantasy points. So if they can keep that up going forward, and there's no reason they can't, the 3 of them can all coexist and produce for fantasy, and this is a good matchup for them too. I think they beat the shit out of Jacksonville. I'm not interested in anyone in a Jacksonville uniform. Robinson's been the bright spot, but Pittsburgh has a stout, is an understatement, defense and has been pretty stiff against the run. So fire up your Pittsburgh wide receivers. If you want to sprinkle a little James Conner in there, something you've never heard on this show before, go for it.
Yuck. So let's try to focus. Yeah, Pittsburgh, great. Finally throwing to everyone in our offense. I think you said Chase Claypool. It's Clay Chasepool is the one who ended up with 2 touchdowns in the game. But, yeah, Juju, your boy Deontay Johnson, all got fed early against the Cincinnati Bengals last week. The answer to any question is never roll out James Conner. So I have to disagree with you on that one, sir. But it is a positive spot, but he has had plus matchups the last couple of weeks and laid absolute eggs. If James Conner has a good week here and your trade deadline has not passed, you better ship him out of town for whatever you could get your hands on. Speaking on the Jacksonville side, the reason that they don't have as much of a disgusting line as you would like is because they play with spunk, John. Did you not see them go into Green Bay last week and almost beat the Packers? They played a competitive game. They turned Aaron Rodgers over. Sidney, outcast from Philadelphia Eagles, Jones got a pick on him on a telegraphed football that Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that shit. But if they can stick to running James Robinson like they did against Green Bay, I think they have a chance here. Not to win, to cover. And James Robinson, again, is a must-start. He had 2 rushing TDs called back by penalty in that game. Still finished with over 100 yards rushing. He is impressive. They commit to him. So he is the one you're going to start. You should be able to start DJ Chark because you can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers with deep speed still. And I believe Luton's still the quarterback. So I'm comfortable starting both of those guys. The Pittsburgh defense you were talking about hasn't looked as vaunted since Devin Bush went out of the game. Yeah. And although they throttled the Bengals were still able to rush 21 times for 139 yards. That's 6.6 yards per clip in a blowout game. So don't be afraid to start James Robinson. On the other side, yeah, all the receivers, I hate that you can start James Conner, and you should be able to roll Eric Ebron back out. He didn't get into the end zone. He was probably the only primary pass catcher not to last week, but I feel pretty comfortable going back to him. After that, another, like I say, the defensive battle. You like defense and rushing? Because the Tennessee Titans are saddling up Derrick Henry and heading down to M&T Bank Stadium to do battle against the thoroughly disappointing Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, another one with a total 47.5. Some places have it as high as 49. So it varies what book you get it at. Baltimore is only a 6.5 point home favorite, so they're not giving them the full touchdown. Where am I? Ravens are looking at. Oh, it's actually on some sites it's not even up. So who's banged up? What are we missing here?
I think there was another positive test on the Ravens side.
So yeah, some places
player is why
have the lines not even up, so I can't get the point totals here without doing the math quick in my head, which I'm terrible at. However, after that disappointment last week, you figure Baltimore is the type of team that does bounce back from that, but they haven't looked like themselves on offense this year, at least not what we saw a year ago. So as much as I'd like to go with the bounce back after that disappointing loss, no thanks. Tennessee's coming off a big win. They seem to have a little momentum. I like Tennessee getting the 6.5 on the road, even though Baltimore's probably the better team. But at this point in the season, I think Tennessee is a little better than Baltimore.
Baltimore does not deserve to be a touchdown favorite against a team that was one Patrick Mahomes away from going to the Super Bowl last year. Now, the Titans laid an absolute egg last Thursday night against the Colts, but they've had a lot of time to recover and lick their wounds here. The Ravens lost on Sunday night in shitty conditions, so a little bit of a shorter turnaround. So we're talking about a more rested, healthier Tennessee Titans team than those Baltimore Ravens. The same Ravens team that continues to say that teams are just calling out their plays. They know what's coming, and it's because they're not creative. Yeah. It's just read option work. Like they haven't continued to adapt. It's tackle the right player, and you're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. That's what it's going to come down to. So Tennessee, not as stout of a defense as one may think, but Baltimore's just limited offensively. Like you can't, I don't even start Lamar Jackson anymore. I have the luxury of a Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson in 2 or 3 spots. I don't even look at who they're playing. It doesn't matter. Like Lamar Jackson does not start for me right now, and he won't for the foreseeable future. Granted, it's because Kyler Murray's there, but there are a number of quarterbacks I feel more comfortable starting than Lamar Jackson right now. We are through 10 weeks in the season. This isn't like short-sighted bias, like everything's small sample size, but he just looks like shit. He has to get you 100 rushing yards and a touchdown to be viable because he's just not going to do it in the air. And who's he going to go to? Both passing touchdowns went to Willie Boxcar Snead last week. So he wasn't even giving them to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. It's confounding. It sucks for fantasy purposes. They're just so limiting. So, and now Mark Ingram's back. So now it's a 3-headed committee again at running back. So you can't start any of those 3 guys. On the Tennessee side, you're going to start Derrick Henry because Baltimore hasn't been as stout, especially without Calais Campbell. You're definitely going to start A.J. Brown, and hopefully you don't have to start Ryan Tannehill. Not to insult Ryan Tannehill, but do better, people, All right, moving on. The Cincinnati Barrows head to FedEx Field to do battle with Captain America Alex Smith and the Washington football team. I'm pretty sure he is still slinging it around right now. What the fuck is happening with Alex Smith and going downfield?
I don't know.
No one knows.
No, the whole thing is weird.
Just let me, before you go into it, I finally dipped my toe into some prop bets, and I forget what Alex Smith was. It was like 260-some yards. I was like, no fucking way he throws for more than that. Bing! That dude just proceeded to stick it to me like Kenny KGB did in Rounders. And I just didn't. I had to laugh. I'm like, good for him. That was right.
Oh, yeah. If you take a huge beating, those are fun. If it's close, that's no good.
Somehow threw for 390. No touchdowns. Got to be the highest yards ever thrown for without a passing touchdown.
That's a good question. It's good trivia. So totals 46.5. Washington is a 1.5 point home favorite. Washington is looking at, can't find them. They're there. 23 points. Cincinnati is 22. So pretty close. It's a JD McKissick season. The last 2 games, I think he's got 29 targets. So your boy Alex Smith may have been chucking it last week, but he's got a nasty habit of dumping it off to McKissick. And Antonio Gibson is a RB1, which is what we would like to see. And they've been using them both on the field at the same time, so it doesn't even hurt Gibson to get McKissick that involved. I looked up the stats yesterday, but I didn't think we were going to talk about it much here. But they were on the field a bunch of plays last week. They were lining Gibson out at wide receiver, which we kind of knew coming into the season he'd get used that way. But with McKissick being a viable pass-catching option, they can afford to do that and create some good matchups. So I'm actually excited to see what Washington's going to do with this. They seem to be playing well and clicking, and I always like Ron Rivera. So, and anything I could do to bash Cincinnati because I hate their coaching staff. So give me Washington players in this one, since he's going to volume their way into production as they've been doing it. Burrow throws it a ton. T. Higgins is emerging as a much better receiver than I thought coming in. Other than that, I'm not trusting the running backs. But yeah, I like Washington in this one.
Yeah, pretty much well said. Yeah, T. Higgins has arrived, and AJ Green is officially dead. So that transition has taken place for the Bengals, and it should in your fantasy and dynasty rankings. As far as the Washington football team, I don't want to spend any time talking about Cincinnati. Maybe Mixon comes back, maybe he doesn't. Gio didn't really do shit last week, but can we get Joe Mixon back, please, so we can have some more fantasy running backs? On the Washington side of the house, talking about those running backs, Antonio Gibson, average on the ground, 3.5 per carry, put in 2 rushing touchdowns. J.D. McKissick had 8 carries for 6 yards in the game, but still stole a rushing touchdown, which baffles me. And then speaking about how they are as pass catchers, Gibson, 4 targets, 4 catches, 20 yards. You mentioned the volume of McKissick gets. 15 targets, was able to corral 7 of them. Barely. He's under 50% on his catch rate. And he's doing it for 6.1 per clip. Like, they're force feeding this. It's almost like they're trying to prove a point at this point in time that J.D. McKissick deserves to still be involved in this offense. Give more to our boy Antonio Gibson if you want to win football games. And start relegating J.D. McKissick. He was a good story, but he doesn't deserve 15 targets across 3 games, okay? Stop giving it to him in 1. Alex Smith, again, comeback player of the year. Congratulations, Alex Smith. This is an ugly game. Let's move on to the last 1 o'clock game. And it will be another injury-impacted game where the Atlanta Falcons, fresh off their bye, head to Mercedes-Benz Superdome to do battle with famous Jameis Winston, calling back his YOLO glory days, facing the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, it's one of only 4 games with a total in the 50s. So most places have 50.5. If you shop around, you can get it as high as 52.5. Saints are a 5-point favorite at home. Even with Winston, they should be, because Atlanta is dog shit. The Saints are looking at 28 projected points. Atlanta is at 23. Winston's going to throw some interceptions here. That is a given. But I think this is a good spot for Michael Thomas to finally come back. Winston, we all know in Tampa Bay, peppered the shit out of Mike Evans. He is going to look for his number 1 guy and throw it to him a ton. So Atlanta's been terrible against the pass, been for fantasy and in real life. So the opportunity is to just hit Michael Thomas with at least 15 passes in this game. Not catches, but targets. Kamara should be involved, obviously, as he's been all year and will continue to be. On the Atlanta side, the points are going to be there. They just volume their way into it. I'm sure Ryan's going to throw fucking 46 times and split them around evenly. You could play everybody on that offense.
I'm just going to read an Ed Werder tweet here. Source: Saints QB Drew Brees is having his scan sent to a second medical specialist. No, sorry, to other medical specialist for a second opinion to determine the full scope of his chest injuries. Tests performed yesterday revealed that Brees had multiple fractured ribs on both sides of his chest and a collapsed lung. The scan showed 5 definite rib fractures, but a source mentioned the possibility there might be more. The opinion of additional doctors will decide whether Drew Brees will be placed on short-term injured reserve, a designation that will result in him missing at least 3 games. How old is too old to play professional football, John? Drew Brees old. That's how old. His body is not meant to take these hits anymore. He fractured his entire rib cage. Like, the whole thing, to the point. It collapsed along, and I'm not making light of this at all. He seems fine. He has a picture of his kids playing doctor for him, but good God, John. You're going to fight to come back from this? This is a 4 to 6 week, probably conservative timeline. He ain't playing football again for the regular season. 0%. Absolute 0%. So drop him in redraft leagues. Do you pick Jameis Winston up? Or is this going to be like a too much Taysom Hill for our liking to Jameis Winston? Can't ball out for his 300-yard, 3-touchdown, 5-interception days.
I think it depends on your league scoring. If you're heavily punished for turnovers, I probably wouldn't. If it's a league where you're getting, 6 points for passing touchdowns and your interceptions are only dinging you like -1, I probably would. I think he'll be fine. The wonky Scott Fishbowl scoring this year where the interceptions and negative plays fucking hammer you. He's going to be bad news for that. So it's going to depend on your scoring, but in leagues where you're not heavily punished, I'm not opposed to adding him.
Yeah, see, I'm in a point where I want fat Jameis back because skinny Jameis just doesn't look like he's willing to take those chances, or he's got it coached out of him by Sean Payton. But I got to think this is good news for these pass catchers because I'm sorry, Drew Brees can manage the shit out of a game and can check down better than anyone in the world and read defenses. But he can't push the ball downfield anymore. So Traquan Smith didn't exist. Michael Thomas was losing all his luster. Jared Cook was not even a tight end 1 anymore. It was Alvin Kamara or bust. I mean, that's literally the straw that stirred this drink. Let's go the other way. And it will continue to be. I'm not moving away from Kamara, but hopefully it improves the outlook of these other pass catchers because we needed it. Drew Brees was spreading it around all over, finding anyone and their mother for touchdowns. Winston is going to pepper his favorite guys. It's going to be Manny Sanders and Michael Thomas just getting hyper-targeted so long as he's in there. So I'm optimistic. On the Atlanta side, you nailed it. It's Matt Ryan throwing it 40 to 50 times, so you're going to start Julio and Ridley. We do got a bye week with Todd Gurley coming back, going to be as fresh as he's going to be for the rest of the year, but he's running into a brick wall with those New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
He needs to find that short yardage touchdown because I don't even think he gets 50 yards rushing in this game.
It's certainly – but that's kind of what he's done all year. He does get those – he is scoring a ton of touchdowns, and it doesn't matter that he's getting 50 yards because he's getting you the 6 fantasy points for getting 1 in the end zone. So he gets you 11 every week, even though it's hard to count on those touchdowns. He's been doing it pretty consistently.
Yeah, this is going to be at its height. It's getting tested here. So those are our 1 o'clock games. John, take us out of here.
Yep, so be on the lookout for our afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night preview. I'm John DeBari from Matt Walker, Missing in Action, and Drew Burke. We are the Fantasy 40, and we are out. Out!
Yep. In a world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. That's where we're at.
Like you said, it's not even like you said with your hospital. It's like not looking for much here. Can you call me back?
Yeah, I'm just looking for a return phone call.
Yeah, this fucking our one of my wife's doctors in Phoenix. They could do Botox somewhere in your fucking head to cure headaches. I don't know how it works.
Let me stop you right now. I currently have Botox in my head for my headaches.
Did it work?
It's weird. My headaches are down, but I'm also on medication at the same time. So who knows what's really happening? I have this constant, it's almost like I have a cold pack on my head, but it's not cosmetic Botox. So they did it across, across here, right? So whenever I do anything, all the wrinkles are up on the top of my head. It's like the weirdest thing in the world, right?
To do a corona test, and now it takes 48 hours. So then I have to just sit there. So we're driving out Monday just to do the test. Tuesday, holding our fucking dicks all day. Didn't they score 3 touchdowns between the two of them?
No, they only had 2.
And I think it was on something nuts, 6 touches.
No, the Eagles only had 2 touchdowns on the carry. And Corey Clement had 1 carry.
Yeah, it was on something crazy, 6.
It was a 5-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
And Boston Scott had 3.
So Miles Sanders got unlucky.
Yeah. Go ahead. I don't think you can hear me well.
Yeah. No, I was just stepping all over you like a fucking asshole.
Got it. I don't think you can hear me. Yeah. So go ahead. Keep talking trash about the Eagles.